Number one. We are number one. Yay. This is the Lichtman Live Post Show, the greatest post show that's ever existed on the face of this earth. I am your host, your guide through this journey, through this post show. How's everyone doing? Suzanne AP is in the house. Ruben Martinez, Origins and Tall Tales. Peace to Emily. Peace to you again, Emily. PM says, greetings from Australia. Isaac Cannon's here. Gabe, we are live. Amber Owens, present here. Nice to see you, Amber. Hello, Teddy Strong Bear. How strong are you, Mr. Bear? Live, JoJo Star. Hola, Anthony. Thank you for being a great mod. Jay Carrion says, a gold Trump coin ad was running. What's going on, Sam? You're talking about on Lichtman Live? You gotta talk to YouTube about that, bro. I have no idea. We do not have any control over what ads run in our video. All we can do is turn them on, essentially, and then YouTube decides what goes. Yeah, people have been forever being like, there's a Trump ad on your video. What the heck? It's like, guys, we have literally no control over that. So, sorry if you were hit with a Trump ad. I apologize for that. Hello, Maxie. Hello, Vonda T-Girl. Oh, T-Girl, I was thinking, you were talking about Ethan. What we should propose to Ethan is that he starts Leftovers again, but with my dad as his co-host. Now that is a proposal right there. President Khalidi says, this is your future president come 20 years time. Hey, you better go by President Khalidi, or we won't know who you are, you know? Teddy Strong Bear says they are stronger than the average bear. That's pretty good. Hello, Michael Nightwolf. Michael Nightwolf was just at a drag queen convention. Wow. I didn't know they had drag queen conventions. I guess I got conventions for everything now, right? Jake Carrion says, I thought you decided what ads run. Absolutely not. The only ads we decide to run are the ones in like that Aura ad or the Ground News ad. Those are the only ones that we have control over. YouTube controls, I guess, mostly through algorithm. I don't even know if they have a dedicated team to place ads. I'm assuming they just do it through algorithms. Which ads go where. T-Girl says, okay, will do, Sam. You mean that? You really mean that? Hello, Obsidian Knight. I have not gotten a chance to box yet. The issue is that my boxing gym here, I want to do like a package where I get like, I buy 10 visits and I can use them whenever. They only do like month to month, and it's kind of expensive, and it's like, I don't want to pay for a full month of boxing when I'm only going to like pop in now and then, Evan says Lichtman got aura. He does have aura, no doubt. Who is Ethan? Ethan from H3. T-Girl says she's got a Connect. Does your father have a stamp collection? I don't believe so. Yes, box as in like, whoo, 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 bang. JoJo Star just says, Jake Paul is racist. Okay. Limited Light says, Sam Harris had at least one thing right. Picking a random person to be president would be better than Trump because a random person would be scared so shitless they wouldn't seek input from experts. I'm not sure what you're saying. Oh, I see what you're saying. Just picking a random person off the street. Origins and Tell us this is, oh gosh, every guy wants to box. I just like to wrestle and, box around. It's just what I like to do. I've always been a contact sport guy, so. Sorry, not sorry. Def looks like he would have Dr. Lichtman, Def looks like he would have a stamp collection. I don't think my dad collects anything. My dad is very in here, not very out there. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't he kind of lives a simple life outside, in his external livings. Jake Paul endorsed Vivek. What a joke. Sam versus Jake, the fight of the century. Guys, no one wants to box me. I'm a guy with 9,000 subscribers. Now, if Jake Paul offered me a boxing match, would I take it? Absolutely. Do I think I would win? Probably not. He's like, as someone who likes and watches boxing, Jake is actually a good boxer. Abe says your dad collects knowledge. Exactly. A rando would be asking experts all the time. I get what you're saying. If you pick a rando off the street to be president, they do better than Trump because at least a rando would trust data and experts and all that jazz. I get it. Yeah, UFC is pretty brutal. There's no doubt. But I've heard that UFC, at least the boxing side of it, does actually less damage to your brain because boxing gloves, while they prevent like scratches and cuts, which the UFC gloves don't. So like UFC looks so brutal because there's so much blood and mostly blood. The circumference of a boxing glove, when it hits you, it actually rattles your brain more than a UFC glove. That's what I've heard, at least. John Rogers says, hey, Sammy, I thought you answered my question in the best dramatic fashion on you and your dad's show. Thank you. No, thank you for your question. Michael Nightwolf says, yeah, Jake beat Mike Tyson. Well, Mike Tyson's an old man. The thing that really impressed me with Jake's boxing is when he almost beat Tommy Fury, Tyson Fury's little brother. Like, Tommy Fury is a professional boxer, and I thought that fight was pretty close. And the fact that, like, a former YouTuber got in there and was, like, holding his own against a legitimate professional boxer. Now, the other fights, like when he fights like UFC fighters usually are not great boxers. When he fights like former NBA players, that's all BS. When he fought Tommy Fury, I was like, this guy's actually good. And I just know boxing, so I've like seen him. And even when he does box UFC fighters or basketball players, you watch him fight and you're like, damn, this guy's actually pretty legit. Logan Paul is a horrendous boxer. Logan Paul does not know how to box. He should stick to WWE, let's just say that. And I think Jake is a much, much better. Just watching both of them, Jake is a much better boxer. Ruben says, that is actually propaganda by the UFC to try to say it's not as brutal of a sport. There's nothing safe about either sport. There's been no studies to prove that one is worse than the other. I get what you're saying. I'm not saying UFC is not a brutal sport. I've just heard that the circumference of a boxing glove does more brain damage than the circumference of a UFC glove. And maybe you're saying that's not true. I don't know, but can I box and rap at the same time? Yeah, of course. Reed says, Trump wanting to end birthright citizenship, is that typical of what dictators do? I don't know. I don't know how many other countries have birthright citizenship. I feel like it's a fairly unique aspect of the United States, so I don't know if I can comment on that. James has never cared for the UFC. The thing about the UFC is I think you can only really like it if you like just fighting and the brutalness of it, or if you understand the art behind it, because mixed martial arts, which is what the UFC is actually a very artistic, beautiful thing, even though it is used to hurt another person, if that makes sense. What's your intro music to enter the ring? That's a good question. I have to think about that. If I was to really do that, I'd have to... it would be this one. Susie K. Everybody loves Susie K now. That would be that one. Thoughts on the Jake Tapper book about Biden's cover-up? I think I talked about this last week. I think it's a bunch of BS. I think we all knew that Biden was an old, doddering man who probably had memory issues, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think the book proved anything that we didn't already know. Again, if he would have come to us and said, they had a doctor in the White House saying that he has early onset dementia and he can't possibly be the president anymore, and then they covered it up, okay, that's a scandal. But I think they're reaching with this. I don't watch wrestling. I've never gotten into wrestling. How do you view KSI as a boxer? He's not a good boxer, but he's so strong and athletic that he can make up for his lack of boxing skills. Him and Logan are sort of in a similar vein, where they're both like really bad boxers, but they're both big and strong and athletic, and that's what they've got going for them. You can see me walking out to Sweet Home Alabama. I do love that song. I just don't know if it fits me. Like, I'm not from Alabama. Like, for my walkout song, I don't know. No karaoke tonight. That's not happening. Good luck to limited light on your grade finals tomorrow. Diego D says, dude, my dad is about the same age as yours, from Brooklyn, constantly trying to sell me a bridge. I often sarcastically remark, someday, Dad, we'll sell that bridge. That's a nice story. "30 countries have birthright citizenship. 28 of them are in the Americas, one in Africa and another in Asia. No European country has it." Right. It seems like that makes more sense that the Americas would have it, because they had such a crazy influx because of colonialism and European conquer. They had such a influx of different people. It makes sense to be like, we need to not make this so complicated. And it's like, if you're born here, you're good to go. We don't need to have a whole mess around all this. Is my entrance song "Mama Said Knock You Out"? Nah, definitely not. That's not one of my faves. I mean, it's a good song, but it's not me. All right, what's my entrance song? I don't know. I feel like I would have to like sit down and research for a while before I could pick one out. If you made a movie about your dad, who'd you want to play him? That's an interesting question. Now, is this a movie about his young, like, are we using the same actor throughout the whole life? Is it a movie about the whole life? Is it just about the early career, the development of the key? Because it changes, right? If it's a movie kind of maybe about the development of the keys, his early life, who would be a good actor to play him right now? There are no actors anymore. The movie star is dead. The movie star is gone. Maybe Adrian Brody. I don't know why that came to mind. That was the first person who came to mind for me. Who are my favorite boxers of all time? My favorite current boxer is Canelo. Prime Mike Tyson is fun to watch. I don't know if I've watched enough classic fights to go beyond that. Just I've seen clips here and there, but I don't know if I've watched enough classic boxing to be like, this guy's my favorite or that guy's my favorite, Zac Efron to play my dad? No. Dustin Hoffman would be good. Maybe an older version of my dad, yeah. 3 6 Mafia, It's a Fight. 3 6 Mafia, I could explore their catalog and maybe pick a 3 6 Mafia song. Not that one. I don't want it to be too on the nose. Like Mama Said Knock You Out and It's a Fight. That's too on the nose. You got to be a little bit more. Who has good walkout songs is Tyson Fury. He has really good walkout songs. The last movie star is like Leo DiCaprio. That's the last movie star. Hollywood as we know it, at least, is gone. I have not seen Warrior. That's a Jake Gyllenhaal movie. Do you believe the Democrats since 2016 have been in the same or similar situation Republicans were in the Obama presidency? Not really, no. I don't feel like there's a lot of parallels. Diego says, my MLB closer walk is Mama Said Knock You Out. See, I like Mama Said Knock You Out I like that for a MLB closer walk. Because it's not as on the nose, but it still works. The stock market has recovered, I know. The stock market bounced back. Ronald Reagan Jr. claims his dad had dementia while in the White House, increasingly alarming from the third year of his first term. It was covered up. Yeah, I know there's been a lot of talk about Reagan and his cognitive decline. I could see Bryan Cranston playing your dad. No, I don't think so. Is it possible that Is it possible that by pushing Biden out, they allowed the GOP to push different disinformation on them, or is it just coincidence? On who? What do you mean by on them? Did you forget Orlando Bloom, Pirates of the Caribbean? In what context did I love Pirates of the Caribbean. Trump's second term is like 3 times worse than what he did in his first term. Right, that's because he's ruling from executive order, and Congress is just letting him do it. Brad Pitt was the last megastar. No, I think Leo's the last. I think Brad Pitt is the second to last, but Leo's the last. What if I played my dad? Nah. Aaron Paul? Nah. Willem Dafoe as your dad would be my first choice. Interesting. I don't see it. I love Willem Dafoe as an actor, and it would be cool to just see him play my dad, but I don't see it. What about Robert Pattinson and Daniel Radcliffe? No. Definitely not Daniel Radcliffe. Robert Pattinson is close, but he's still not a movie star. In the same vein as a Robert Redford or a Clint Eastwood or a Brad Pitt or Leo DiCaprio. Are you / were you an aspiring actor? No. I mean, I'm sort of interested in acting generally, but I've never concretely pursued becoming a professional actor. Why is it that Biden has dementia? Because he has a speech impediment, but Trump never had the intellect, so dementia isn't even talked about anymore. Seems like ableism. Michael says, I had a feeling Harris wouldn't be a popular candidate because she was attached to Biden and she wasn't popular when she ran in 2020. I get that. The last movie star is Jennifer Lawrence? No way. Watch War UFC movie, great film. All right, I'll check it out. Thank you, Philip, for your donation. There are no movie stars left. I don't know how to describe, like, what is Jennifer Lawrence? Yeah, she's a movie star, but she's not a movie star in the sense of, like, how Julia Roberts was a movie star or how Meryl Streep was a movie. Like, they just don't exist anymore like that. Some say Tom Cruise is the last movie star. Maybe. I see where you're going with that. Like and subscribe. You're so right, Hugh. Thank you. John Krasinski. John Krasinski ain't no movie star. He's great from The Office. Honestly, I think he's okay in The Office. He's like my 5th favorite character from The Office. Is Timothée Chalamet not one? No, definitely not. Definitely not. What about Matt Damon? Yeah, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, but they're sort of in a similar generation with Leo DiCaprio. So like I wouldn't put them as newer than Leo necessarily. They're sort of like Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Leo DiCaprio. They're sort of like the last ilk of like really big movie stars. Like for example, I don't think my parents have any clue on earth who Timothy Chalamet is, right? Let's rewind the tape to 1985. I think movie stars are known by both my generation and my parents' generation, and even the younger generation by me. That's how I'm sort of seeing it. Movie stars were people that were so big that they span generational knowledge. Dwayne Johnson? No, Dwayne Johnson is an action star. He's not a movie star. Leo could play me? I don't think so. I don't see it. I'm not saying I don't like Timothy Chalamet. I actually do think Timothy Chalamet is a good actor, but he ain't no movie star. I said Ben Affleck, didn't I? The last movie star is Christian Bale. I wouldn't even say Christian Bale's a movie star. Is he a fantastic actor? Yes. I put him more of like in a category with like Daniel Day-Lewis, more of just like a critically acclaimed sort of film actor. Although Christian Bale was in Batman, which is a pretty big movie. I think Leo is an exceptional actor. He could learn your mannerisms. I agree, he is an exceptional actor, but I don't think we reflect each other very much. Philip H. is also we consume far more entertainment than movies now. Back then you had to go to the theater or rent from Blockbuster. Right, the entire media landscape has changed, which has changed how we perceive these people. Benedict Cumberbatch could play my dad? I don't see it. So what's the difference between a movie star and just a great actor? A movie star is in the zeitgeist and the cultural conversation of most Americans. Christian Bale, I agree, is kind of on the cusp. If it wasn't for Batman, I would say he's not a full movie star. He's on the cusp. Joaquin Phoenix, I don't think is a movie star. Denzel Washington is definitely a movie star. That is true. But again, I would put him... Who would I put him with? What generation? Kind of like the Brad Pitt generation. Like him, Brad Pitt, Denzel Washington. I'm trying to think who else is sort of in that... Like, probably like had their big come up in like maybe the early 90s, late 80s maybe. But Robert Pattinson was literally Batman. But Batman doesn't have the same cultural impact as it used to. I guarantee you walk onto the street and you say, who was the last Batman to your average American? They will not say Robert Pattinson. But if you ask them in 1989 who was the last Batman, 9 out of 10 people will tell you who it was. Tom Hanks, Will Smith, yes, also movie stars. Yes, Tom Cruise is a movie star. Pitt, Cruise, Denzel Washington, Tom Hanks. Will Smith, I would say, is more like Affleck, Damon generation, Leo generation. Do you think there will ever be new movie stars again? No, never again. The media landscape has changed way too dramatically. Movies used to be the crowning achievement of the entertainment industry. The best actors were in movies. The best directors were in movies. The most money was spent on movies. The most eyeballs were put on movies. I would say movies now are like third or fourth in terms of pull. Like one is probably One is probably social media right now. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Two is probably like reality TV now, especially on streaming sites. Three is probably like your big level streaming shows like Stranger Things or Last of Us. And then I would say after that it's probably movies. It just doesn't have the same gravitas in our culture as it used to. I mean, for example, right? Like, just to demonstrate how much our media culture has changed, right? I just been watching episodes of Seinfeld. I mean, just think about in any other industry, if the context of the business changed this much, it would never be the same. So when I was growing up, right, we had kind of standard cable, right? There was a lot of channels, but you just watch what was on. And for the most part, if Seinfeld was on, it'd be on like TBS, and you get like 3 or 4 episodes of Seinfeld and then 3 or 4 episodes of that 70s show, and you just watched what was on. Now I have this database, essentially. All humans, at least, in Europe and the Western world, have this database in front of them where they can watch anything they want in its entirety at any time. You can sit there and watch every episode of Seinfeld for the next 30 days. And it's right in front of you at your fingertips. You're not at the whim of what's on, what's new, what the TV stations are trying to promote, their new shows, et cetera, et cetera. That's why when you log on to Netflix, sometimes you'll see shows that were made 20, 30 years ago as the number one show on Netflix. Because the format of how people ingest this stuff has changed 180 degrees. I think a couple months ago, Suits was the number one show on Netflix, right? Imagine saying that in 1990s television, that a show 10, 15 years ago was the number one show on TV. It just wouldn't happen. You could watch Nick at Night or TV Land and watch old shows, but that's not the same as having essentially an endless database of content in front of me, which is backlogged, right? So I don't need Netflix to produce a brand new show every year, because I've got a backlog of thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of content I can watch. So when you change the format that drastically, it'll never be the same. Yeah, people don't even go to movie theaters anymore. And the issue, too, is that streaming doesn't like movies because they prefer series. Netflix likes Seinfeld more than it'll like any brand new movie because it keeps people going back, and it keeps people going back for years. I've watched Seinfeld before. I mean, I haven't watched it in a couple of years, but when you're Netflix, you want as much content to bring people back as much as possible. The issue in that format when it comes to movies is a movie is beginning, middle, end, over in 2 hours. Once that movie is over, there's not a lot of incentive for me to log back in to Netflix and watch that movie again, right? Whereas series have a longer pull, and that's why these streaming sites are obsessed with series, and that's why they're obsessed with backlogs. And that's why they pay millions of dollars for Friends, because they know that if you own Friends, you're going to have people paying for your service and coming back year after year after year after year. Yeah, Clooney's a movie star. That is true. I forgot about George Clooney. Emily says, you're right. Today's media database are better than yesterday's TV guide. Exactly. That's how you kind of got to think about it. It's like an endless content database. Whereas TV was more of a curated hour by hour viewing box, basically. I mean, that's so drastically different than an endless database of content. And the backlog changes everything. Like I said, when you can have thousands of hours on Netflix of that, I don't know if that 70 shows is on it, it's just an example, that 70 show and King of Queens and Seinfeld and Suits. It's like that alone could take you years to watch before you even open a new show. Judy Carter says, movies just got too expensive for me to go too often. Streaming channels have great movies and often hold more appeal to my personal taste. Yeah, I get that. It's not cheap to go to the movie theaters anymore. But it's not cheap to go to pay for all these streaming sites either. That's why also they're struggling too, because it's not the greatest business model for them. The other issue is that movies just got too expensive to make. I think I've talked about this before. Like the Gladiator 2 movie, right? Some like mid-ass sequel was like $500 million to produce. To make that up, you're going to have to get so many butts and seats. And I'm sorry, but you're just not going to get enough butts and seats in 2025 in a movie theater to make up $500 million. Where somebody like me can be on YouTube. I've spent, a couple $1,000s on cameras and equipment, et cetera, and I'm on YouTube. Boom, like that. And it's just anybody can start posting on YouTube for a fraction of what it costs to make movies, and sometimes get more eyeballs than movies do, especially in this day and age. The biggest content creators are definitely getting more eyeballs than movies. Definitely. Words and Tall Tale says, movies could be cheaper, better stories, and great acting like Pride and Prejudice 2004. Right, but it's interesting. I was watching Mrs. Doubtfire at my friend's house the other night. They don't make movies like Pride and Prejudice anymore. They don't make movies like Mrs. Doubtfire anymore because it's not financially worth it to these studios anymore. So it's like, all right, you make Mrs. Doubtfire the equivalent in 2025, right? It costs you still like $40-50 million. You push it hard. Maybe if it's a big hit, like on a movie like that, maybe you make $60-70 million. All right, you make $20 million, right? But they found this cheat code, which is superhero movies. And even though it costs hundreds of million dollars to make them, if you hit on one, you can make billions of dollars, right? So we're talking about these studios. They don't want to put in the time and effort to make a Mrs. Doubtfire because they'll make at best $20 million on it, right? But they are willing to gamble on these big superhero movies because even though the overhead is so high, hundreds of millions of dollars, if they hit, they're making, right, let's say like an Avengers movie, it costs $300 million to make. They make $1 billion on it. That's $700 million. I mean, how many Mrs. Doubtfires would you have to make to get that profit, right? I don't even know the math on that. But that's an issue. That's why they don't make movies like that anymore, because it's not worth it to them. And that's why sort of the superhero movie has destroyed the movie industry, because studios are only willing to produce these massive, big budget movies that are going to make their profit margins insane. And it's like, let's say you make a $300 million superhero movie. You make two. One flops. One makes $1 billion. It pays for the other one. You know what I mean? Even if you have a flop, it still pays for the other one. Or than tell says, it's worth it to me. Right, but that's the issue. It's worth it to you because you love the art of it. And Hollywood is not in the business of the art of it anymore. It used to be, but not anymore. And then, like, the Gladiator 2 example is sort of like the dark side of that scenario. It's like they're so obsessed with the franchise that they'll put $500 million into a franchise that fails. You know what I mean? Just because they're so obsessed and there's such a big profit margin that might be had on a franchise or on an existing IP. But it's trapped them. So it's like, oh, we've got to pay hundreds of billions of dollars for these movies. But don't worry, like, even if this one flops, the next one will make $500 million and pay for these two. So they've boxed themselves into a corner where they can only make these massive budget movies, but also they have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, it's just such a, I don't know how else to put it other than, yeah, they've sort of backed themselves into a corner where they're not making good art anymore, and the only option for them is to spend hundreds of millions in hopes of making billions, basically. That's their only hope. Am I going to watch the new Superman movie? I'm iffy on it. I don't know if it's got really good reviews, probably. If I have friends that want to see it, probably. I mean, I still go to the theater, but I would say I'm probably one of the rare ones. And I only go to the theater to watch movies if it's like I know it's going to be a good movie. You know what I mean? Or I know that the reviews are good. Hollywood ran out of new ideas. No, that's not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying they ran out of they ran out of new ideas. They just decided that the best business model was to use the same ideas over and over and over again. There are so many people out there. I've entered into some like screenwriting competitions, and sometimes they let you like read other competitors' scripts. I've read some scripts that are so good, some film scripts, some TVs that are so freaking good. Peers of mine that I've read that are so good, but there is no market for them. It doesn't exist. I mean, in 1988, Hollywood was buying scripts. You know, anything from Mrs. Doubtfire to Batman, there was just a whole marketplace for ideas because the market allowed it. Now the market's not allowing that to exist, basically. I know I've never been to a drive-in theater. Educate to Freya says, I recently went to the movies to see Sinners, and it was cool experience. Yeah, I went to the theater to see Sinners too. But the only reason I went is because it had so much hype. It had so much hype behind it. You know what I mean? And I thought it was a great movie to watch in theaters. And another issue is that people basically have home theaters at home now. I mean, people have 55-inch TVs and and they can pause and go to the bathroom when they want. You know, that's the thing that, I do love going to the theaters, but every once in a while, I feel like before I go, I have to plan out, how much I drink ahead of time so I don't have to pee during the movie. You know what I mean? It's just not a product that flows well with modern life. I don't think my parents have been to a theater. I don't even know if my dad's been to theater in 10 years. My mom went to see Barbie with me, but I think that was the only movie she's gone to see in years. Because they're like, I've got a big screen TV here. I can watch whatever I want. I don't have to be dictated to the theater schedule, the theater's time, right? Making the movie on time. I can have my own snacks instead of unhealthy movie snacks. I can pause it. I can pee. I can rewind it. I don't know. It's hard just from a mass consumer basis to compete with that, for the theater to compete with that. Michael Nightwell says, I agree. I hate having to get up and pee in the middle of a movie. That's what I'm saying. I've been in theaters where I'm dying, holding it. I do not want to miss the end. I do not want to miss the end. And it kind of ruins the movie because I'm not even focused on the movie. I just have to pee. But I don't want to leave because I don't want to miss the ending, et cetera, et cetera. Anthony says, we bring the kids to the movies, going to see Lilo and Stitch next week. That is one place where Hollywood is still holding on, is the children genre. Jamie says, Sam, why would a guy be interested in Barbie? Because it was a good movie? I don't know. Fried Jamie says, movies are better at home. See what I'm saying? Kev says, there's something about live crowd reactions in a movie theater. I don't know. Most movie theaters I go to, it's just silent the entire movie. It's rare that you go to a movie and there's an energy in the crowd, I feel like. Maybe I felt that with Wicked when I went to see Wicked. That's about it. Plus, it's cheaper when it hits streaming. $30 for the whole family as opposed to $30 per person in the theater. That's a good point. You know, especially if you've got kids, like, and your whole family's trying to go to the movies, like, that can add up really quick. You know, everybody's got a ticket, everybody's got a drink and popcorn. You know what I mean? You got 2 kids and a wife or a husband or, you know, a partner, like, that can easily hit $100 like before you even blink. Too many movie theaters are closing. That's because they can't compete anymore. They're not a viable business model in 2025, unfortunately. And look, I'm not saying like movies are dead. I'm just saying like Hollywood as we know it are dead. And I think movies are going to be more of a niche thing. Sort of like how theater became more of a niche thing. It used to be that every town had their own theater and people used to go, you know what I mean? It's going to be the same with movies. It's going to be like there's going to be fewer movie theaters. It's going to become more niche. It's going to be, I mean, it essentially already is this. It's either going to be like Oscar bait films or superhero movies, and there's just nothing in between. Thank you, Auto Suggestion, for your donation. Eventually, new movies will be streamed at home on release. Surely they would make more money. But they don't. That's the thing. Movies make way more money. If the market is there, they make way more money in theaters. Because, again, it's like, you know, everybody's got to walk in and pay essentially a month's worth of streaming in one pop. Hey Sam, set a goal. This is a great topic. It's really okay. I'll set a goal. I'm setting a quick donation goal. If you're able, I'd much appreciate it. Who did I see? I saw someone talking about the movie industry. I'm not the biggest, I think his name's Tim Dillon. I'm not the biggest Tim Dillon fan, generally speaking. But I saw something recently where he was talking about LA and the movie on Hollywood. I feel like he actually made some good points. Now we gotta go help people. Oh God, ads. Hold on one second. I'm pulling the movie up. Not the movie. The video up. Come on, ad, get going, brother.
Angeles. It's hard not to identify Los Angeles as a sinking ship.
Got it.
When the television and film production has fully fled this.
T-girl, you're crazy. You're crazy. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? $400? I am shocked. Wow. I am very grateful for that. Thank you so much. Holy cow. I think that's the biggest donation I've ever gotten on this show or my dad's show. Holy moly. Thank you, T-Girl. I appreciate that.
It's hard not to identify Los Angeles as a sinking ship.
Got it.
When the television and film production has fully fled the state,
right?
You can't get it back. It's not going to happen. You can't put that, you know, worse than the homeless, the fires, the crime is the fact that they have let their main industry leave the state.
You know, and it makes me feel bad because, you know, Beverly Hills is on this decline. And then the Menendez brothers, when they get out, are going to come back to a city that doesn't look like how they left it. And that's unfortunate.
Is my main concern.
Yeah, yes. that is a main concern.
Yeah.
Dude, Chrissy D, he's a funny guy, man. Philip H says, drive-in theater, $8 a ticket, $2 drinks and popcorn. Also have burgers and chicken. That does sound like a good deal. You sit in your car or in a chair. Huge here.
I mean, they are getting out.
Now, what about Republican Hollywood, Austin? Do you think that's got a chance to come up?
That's going to be fine.
No,
Is that
I mean,
Republican dead?
It's not that it's dead, but there is no Republican Hollywood. The whole thing's collapsed. It's all just the black box of digital. They're
Right.
they're
Is
putting
it libertarian Hollywood or it's
no,
entertainment?
it's 3 podcasts.
That's it.
That's
What
the
it
thing.
is,
You don't realize Hollywood it's just like that was a real thing that hundreds of thousands of people, millions and millions of people derived a living from that. There's 4
Hollywood had a bigger
podcasts.
GDP than most.
That's the thing. Like you're just not going to have a scenario where hundreds of thousands of people are now middle class citizens because of Hollywood. It's just not a thing. I still can't believe T-Girl sent a $400 donation.
Most countries.
Yeah. I mean, it's just you can't set it up in Texas or anywhere else because, like New York, that started in the 1400s as a Dutch fur trading outpost and then grew into a city that predates America. Everything forms over a very long time and for many different reasons. Movies are dead. It's not like, oh, we're going to make them in Texas. It's like no one gives a shit.
So do you really foresee? I've pondered.
I think that's where I disagree with him. I don't think movies are dead. Movies are going to become more niche, but Hollywood is dead.
This. Do you foresee very similar to the car industry in Detroit? Detroit becoming that's not the industry anymore.
No, because
it's not going to happen like
Hollywood has weather.
Yeah, it's too nice.
So you'll just have really rich people continue to live in Southern California. The city of Hollywood will become a museum that people will visit.
Got it. Like it'll be like a San Diego. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, if they're smart, they'll focus exclusively on tourism right now, and they're going to try to bring back some of those jobs. But I think they pivot to like it's a tourist destination. Come visit,
Right.
And you make it really, really nice.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I got a good question. So how now?
Well, we'll see about that.
Yeah, how does the state now filter its propaganda
Yeah.
if there's no Hollywood?
That is a
anymore?
good question.
Yeah,
That is
like,
a good
how
question.
do they do that now?
Well,
do they
there's- yeah.
approach influencers? How do they do
They'll
it?
probably try to do that. I think they will count on the public getting so black-pilled and
So how can Hollywood justify the cost of living if there's no longer Hollywood? The cost of living in Southern California isn't really about Hollywood. It's honestly more about the geographical and climate concerns. So you can't really build up in Southern California because of earthquake concerns. You can't really build into the mountains because of wildfire concerns. And they've kind of sprawled as much as they can. So they've kind of reached the end of the sprawl before you either hit the ocean or the desert, right? And they can't go up, so prices just go up. It's not really about Hollywood per se in terms of like the price of living in that area. It's more about just kind of the geographical and climate concerns of the area.
dispirited that they don't really need propaganda anymore only because there's going to be so much noise and so much chaos. I think they'll just count on people to like tune out.
Right.
That's what I think's
So there's no more
Interesting.
Rocky movies chanting, if you can change, I can change.
No, I think
It's more just tune out.
I
Tune
think
out.
people are going to tune out and they're going to it'll just get more and more fun where you just do the Face ID and then you're in the world.
Who says build in the desert? You can't. There's no water. And the summers are like unbearably hot. Like the deserts of California, like Death Valley is like the hottest place on earth. You can't really sustain life there. I mean, even in Phoenix, where there is a major city in a desert, it's not easy living there.
And then
Yeah, of course I've heard of Palm Springs, but Palm Springs is a resort town. It's not like a metropolis where you need to sustain a population of like, 3 million people.
the augmented reality is coming, virtual reality. They haven't figured out a way to do any of that yet, but like the metaverse, all that stuff. I feel like their goal is to usher people into that as quickly as they can so that people can so they can start ignoring reality and live in these digital worlds. Then they can program the digital worlds
Got it.
to be what they want them to be. Reality is something that
Did T-Girl motivate Sam to stay on stream longer? Absolutely.
they've kind of given up on. They're trying to usher us into that.
As
right?
Giannis has said many times in the show, reality is a suggestion.
Yeah.
and
I don't think they care.
They don't care at all anymore.
I don't think they care.
But this isn't happening tomorrow. We still have 50 to 100 years, not in our lifetime.
I think it's kind of happening tomorrow.
In our children's lifetime, might be a
It's
very,
hard to know how long it'll take but I think it's happening sooner than you think. I think you'll be AI and stuff's going to get real freaky within 10 years.
cash is king, as we've been saying here on this show.
Yeah.
You just want to make sure you have, just you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to get weird.
It's going to get weird.
Yeah.
It's going to get weird with the
We're
robots.
around to see a little bit of the weirdness.
I mean, it's interesting because even like when you talk about Hollywood, even like these guys who are like stand-up comedians, like the old sort of playbook was you start doing stand-up and you start performing stand-up at clubs around Los Angeles and New York, and you gain a following and you gain some buzz, but you don't really make money doing that because it's long, it's late nights and long hours and doesn't pay very well. But hopefully for that you sign a TV deal or you get a movie deal. It's like now these guys essentially have all pivoted to digital media, what they're doing right here. All these stand-ups now who have actually made a name for themselves pivot to the digital space.
Yes, for sure.
Very interesting time for us to be alive, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as they make a robot that you can fuck, people will be okay.
Well, you can.
Yeah.
Chill, bro.
They already have it.
Yeah,
They already have it. They
There's
have it big.
nobody that lived in the 90s in Hollywood that would ever trade places with any of us.
Zero.
If you brought them back and you said you guys used to have fun, there were no cameras. If
No.
a woman acted up, you threw her in a Santa Monica Canyon.
Yeah.
And now
Right,
they
yeah.
would come here and they would go, "What is this? I'm in surveillance all the time.
Right.
I'm being filmed at a restaurant. I'm cheating on my wife.
Right.
I'm doing that. I'm doing that. AI's taking the job. What is this? I can't even abuse my assistant because it's virtual.
Yeah.
They don't want. No one wants.
Yeah.
They don't even want it.
Yeah.
They don't even want it.
No.
There's no point.
No.
There's really no point right now to even be a big Hollywood executive. What would be the point? What would be the point?
It's not fun at all.
To fuck me? What's the point?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm successful. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm successful, what the hell's the point of anything?
What's the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the money is not the same.
Nothing's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't get away with any crimes anymore because
Yeah.
of de facto
And
surveillance.
they're barely
state. Yeah.
worth committing.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
even the bigger part. They're barely worth committing.
Yeah.
The crimes are not even worth committing.
Yeah.
This is the
I don't know. I thought that was interesting and funny. Another guy that I don't love, generally speaking, but I think he said something once interesting on the Joe Rogan podcast about Netflix. I don't watch Netflix. Not Netflix. I don't watch Joe Rogan, but I've seen this clip. What is it? Joe Rogan.
Netflix is done.
They're not done.
Done.
What are you talking
Done.
about?
Netflix pays $100 million to Aaron Sorkin or whoever to make a TV show.
Right.
Right. That distracts you for 2 hours.
Right.
YouTube pays $0 million to Joe Rogan and Jamie to make a podcast that distracts you for 2 hours every day. Netflix cannot compete. Netflix is done.
He's kind of right. Again, talking about like the business model. And Netflix is sort of even a new business model in terms of streaming. I mean, certainly the old school movie business model ain't able to compete with YouTube. Again, paying Joe Rogan $0 to post unlimited content.
Done.
They're not done.
Done.
What are you talking
Done.
about?
Netflix pays $100 million to Aaron Sorkin or whoever to make a TV show.
Right.
Right. That distracts you for 2 hours.
Right.
YouTube pays $0 million to Joe Rogan and Jamie to make a podcast that distracts you for 2 hours every day. Netflix cannot compete.
He's not wrong. All right, guys, I don't like Joe Rogan either, but it was a person on the Joe Rogan podcast who I thought made an interesting point. Sam, you're more right than he is? What do you mean exactly? My dog's scratching at my door. 1 second. All right, my dad. Let's phone in here. Dad? Dad? Wow. All right. My dad wanted to watch the last few minutes of the NBA playoffs, so I'm going to sign off. But I thank each and every one of you. And I especially thank T-Girl. I mean, I'm kind of in shock still from that. Biggest donation I've ever received in my life. So, shout out to you, T-Girl. Shout out to everybody, though. I appreciate everybody for watching, for tuning in. Good night.